It's the start of the new year, and what better time than to revamp your social media strategy? Lucas O'Keefe, who is a social media marketing expert, joins us on the show as he shares some of the best Instagram strategies to help you grow in 2025. Lucas dropped so many valuable insights, and after this conversation, you are going to see the platform in a whole new light. But before we get into it, I've got some very exciting news to share. HoneyBook just launched their January Jumpstart giveaway, and it is designed to help independent business owners like you thrive in the new year. This month, HoneyBook is giving away $10,000 prize packages to 10 lucky winners. From professional development to expert support in streamlining your business, this giveaway is all about setting you up for success. So head to our show notes to learn more and to enter. Now, let's dive into this episode with Lucas and talk all things Instagram for 2025. Lucas, welcome to the Independent Business Podcast. How are we doing?
Oh, it's so great to be here. I'm excited to chat.
I know I'm excited too because I feel like number one, you're one of our partners for our January Jumpstart giveaway. And, I think a lot of us right now are refining, revamping like a lot of things in our business, but especially our marketing strategy. And so we're like, what better person to come in than you to come in and help us? So thank you for being here.
Yeah, I'm excited. I definitely fall into the camp of people who like and look forward to January for that fresh start to, revise some things that towards the tail end of last year weren't really working for me. I like the new
Mhm.
calendar and new strategy, new approach.
I know you just feel like, just really excited, more confident, so I think it's a good time to really ride that wave and just to as you're planning just to see how far you can get. And so I'm really curious about you. I just would love to know like in our audience to just know a little bit more about your story. Like as somebody who has, was posting on Instagram, did you ever think that you would be somebody that people would look towards for education, or you're just like, I'm just going to kind of post and like see what happens and here we go?
Yeah, I never could have imagined where it could have gotten me, and I'm so grateful for where I am today. I'm actually a elementary school teacher. That's how I started in all of this, working as a full time elementary school teacher. Saw students talking about content, TikTok, Instagram, all that interesting entertainment that I feel like they default to instead of television nowadays, which for better or for worse, who knows? But I saw like, you know what? I want to make content. I want to get out there. I never got onto YouTube until recently. So like, you know what, this new short form video craze, I think I can take a stab at this. And I did, and just continued to get into here's the content I'm making. Hey, I'm pretty good at this. Let me share with others what can go into their content and the strategy behind today's wild social media platforms and how they can use it for their businesses as well. And I'm so pleased with the community I've grown from it ever since.
Why did I think of you with like, how you see a lot of teachers like dancing like TikTok trends? I'm thinking.
It's funny because whenever like every year I have a new group of students and then they're like they either already know about my social media or they learn about it. And I think they look me up like expecting to see something like the teacher TikTokers.
Yeah.
And then I give them a warning. I was like, honestly, for a kid, which is good, it's probably very boring stuff because this is about business. It's about, social media strategy. So I'm
Yeah.
glad that once they go searching for me, they don't find much to stick around and then they leave me alone.
And then you're like, goodbye.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I love that though. I think that's so cool. Just hearing about your story. And, a lot of the times when we think about our own journeys, we don't a lot of things are always foreshadowing. You know what I mean? Like we're always like there when you think about your past of like where you are now, like the universe just always drops hints. There's always little hints that leads you to where you are now. So it's really cool just to kind of hear how you honestly have created this huge business and this amazing community. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. And so one question I want to ask is what do you think is the biggest, especially, I think 2024, I'm gonna keep it real. I feel like Instagram has become a much more unpopular platform. Like I think not unpopular as if like the amount of people aren't using it. People are using it. Like, but I feel like a lot of business owners feel like they have to be on it. And so where do you see the biggest like limitation um that business owners are doing to where they're just not seeing growth?
Yeah, I will kind of chime in and also say like I personally find Instagram to be the best business platform still because of all the business features. Like, yes, TikTok's always had like reach, and regardless of what could happen to TikTok, I find like TikTok's always been lacking like the DM features and like the nice,
Mhm.
concise DM inbox and all the other business add-ons, and that's where Instagram is really that sweet spot for me. But as you said, I do find it's very hard to grow on Instagram right now. And many business owners or people trying to build their personal brand who are hopping on there are getting a little overwhelmed, right, or disappointed with their growth that they're finding. So what I will say as a limiting belief to kind of shed is don't set the goal of like 10,000 followers, 25,000 followers, 100,000 followers. I think we all look at the accounts that we follow and look up to. We see the milestones they've reached and we say, oh, I'm not going to be successful until I hit that point. And that could be very problematic because, as we've discussed, like, or we will discuss as well, the state of social media changes all the time. There have been those like low hanging fruit opportunities to grow very quickly. One of those being when Instagram first launched Reels, they were trying to compete with TikTok. To get people to make Reels popular, they had to give us a lot of reach. So every reel left, right, and center was getting pretty explosive reach. I know myself and other more photo or graphic design based creators were a little disappointed for a while, but many creators really found themselves surging to massive audiences in a fairly short time because of that focus on reels. That is really stabilized now, and I know that's just one example, but that's sort of stabilized where we're seeing all types of content can really stand and shine as long as it's high quality. So don't look at an account that maybe grew during that age or during many different other opportunities. Maybe they've been on for a while. Don't look at that. Realize that you are setting out on your own journey and your growth is your growth. If you reach 100 followers, that's amazing. That's 100 people who are selecting your account as one they want to see regularly. I will say that 2025 and onward, it's feeling very difficult to get people to hit the follow button. I know when I look at my own content consumption as a doom scroller myself, all I find myself doing are scroll, scroll, scroll. I like this video. I'm gonna share it to a friend. I'm gonna share it to my colleague. I'm very rarely hitting follow on these accounts, and many people are finding that.
Same. Oh my gosh, there's so many things that you said to unpack. Number one, I love that you said, instead of setting your goals going off of like, I would like to get 10,000 followers or whatever. I think that's just such a smart way to set it, like not to get attached to that. Instead of viewing it as like, okay, if there is, like now a lot of my posts, I'm like, if there is somebody, even if I use like the mini chat, I'm like, if there's somebody, one person that types the comment and it sends to it, then I can open up a conversation. Like that's what matters to me. I love that. I think now it's just no longer being attached to the vanity metrics because it's so hard to grow. It is. And I love that you also just like acknowledge that. And so and it's true, I'm the same way. I send memes, all types of stuff, but I don't follow. And I feel like Instagram is trying to make it as easy as possible to follow people, like for you to follow. But a lot of people aren't taking the bait, like even, with the suggested posts that pop up. And so, number one, why do you think that is? Number one. And then two, how are you navigating that within your own strategy?
Yeah, I love that question. And I think that's perfect for this time of year, especially moving
Mhm.
forward. The reason why I think this is happening is Instagram and social media platforms win regardless of if we follow accounts or
Mhm.
subscribe to accounts. They just want us consuming the most content in a short period of time. They want us to be doom scrolling, right? And
Mhm.
sometimes when we go to follow account, go to visit the profile, and you're right, they have made it easy to follow. Like usually when you're scrolling reels, there will be that follow button, but
Mhm.
that's what we call a pattern break. I'm going to break from my behavior of scroll, 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 share, scroll, 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 share. I'm going to break that pattern and follow, or maybe visit someone's profile. My brain doesn't like that. So it's very easy for us to get locked into these cycles of just consuming. And Instagram, social media actually wins the most when we do that. So I believe personally that they don't really care if we're following accounts or not, right? They want us to just be consuming content. And what that means for a creator now is I really think we're in that time frame of, or in that era of quality mattering over quantity when it comes for content. There have definitely been times where it was reversed. Obviously, quality is always good, but
Mhm.
quality takes time, right? There have been times though where, for example, that Reels era that I mentioned earlier, when Reels had just come out, posting a ton of Reels, even if they weren't amazing, just firing them out there was a really good quantity way to grow because it was like lottery tickets with very high chances, with very good odds of winning. The more you post, the more chances are one of them is going to go viral or get very high views and reach and help you grow your account. Now, I think the best foot forward we can put in this state where it's about the content first, the follow second, is how can you create a very high quality post, even if it means cutting back on your posting frequency. How can you put your best foot forward, something that is going to stand out, grab attention, get people sharing and say, hey, I like this post. I wonder if this creator has more. I'm going to hit follow. I think that's the ideal workflow, the ideal process we want, but it's very difficult because quality is very difficult.
Yeah, 1000%. And this just made me think we did an episode a couple weeks ago talking about like entrepreneurial trends that we're seeing. And one of the first trends that I shared was that the client customer journey journey is getting much longer. Like a lot of people now need a lot more information and a lot more time in order to finally purchase from you. So imagine that as well from following you as well. Like, right.
Yeah.
A lot of those things can absolutely take time because I think a lot of us were just bombarded with so many things throughout the day. So we really do want to connect with people that really aligns with us. And so I think I just love those points that you shared of just really thinking about quality over quantity. And so as you're thinking that, to get people to hit that follow button, you've brought up about how Reels, like Instagram had that moment, obviously due to the TikTok growing very quickly, where you just saw expand like huge growth. Do you see Instagram doing something like that again, where they like will have like, and unless there's like a new feature where all of a sudden it's a free for all, like Threads, right? Like where like it's a new platform, you're like, yes, let me hurry up and hop on it so I can grow. Do you see Instagram having any other moments like that in the future?
I predict, and this is only my own predictions. I predict that we're going to have a pretty standstill year for Instagram this year, which hopefully I view as a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Even though something I do for content is I speak about the change and the new updates, and that's very good content, easy content for me that does well. So on the content side, I hope for a lot of change, but as a creator and user myself, I don't predict a lot of change. I think that's a good thing. Just, with whatever does happen to TikTok in the US, who knows? I think Instagram's going to kind of stay the course. They're at a good place right now where Reels has been a huge success, right? Like I mentioned earlier, they wanted us to create and view Reels. It was a little bit shaky at first where it just felt like the TikTok trends 3 weeks later, they're finally making it to Reels. There was no actual method to the search. We were just being shown random stuff. I think Reels is a very locked in format with
Mhm.
tons of content, almost too much content now, which is why I echo back to the quality over quantity. But I think Instagram's got its Reels in a good place and it's going to keep it there. And it also needs to realize that it's not just about video, and Instagram isn't just about video. They don't want to upset or anger their more photo based audience. So I think it's in a good spot right now that they should stay at, where creators of all different content formats and content mediums, for the most part, are pretty happy.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with that because I am liking now that they're finally giving photos more of a push because for me, reels do not hit. They
Yeah,
just don't.
same. My
And
my
so
reels are my worst performing content.
and I'm like, I'm okay with that because I still got my carousel posts. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
I still have other things that bring me joy. Because I think too, also the content creation process, you also have to enjoy like with what you're creating. And so I'm like, okay, that's okay. Like, I still can do a carousel post or like photos, like a standstill photo of me still does very well. Where
yeah,
I'm like, it's giving. The early like what the 2000s of Instagram, and I'm digging it. I'll keep riding this wave,
yeah.
but I think it just speaks to the point of the fact that it is at a standstill and there's different pathways to growth now. I think, which is awesome, and really just experimenting and seeing what works best for you on your account. Which I love that. I think that gives me much more hope as I'm like preparing my content.
No, that's an excellent way to put it. Multiple pathways to growth. Something I've always said is, if you are starting out, if you are brand new, then yes, reels and video. If you can find a style of creating reels and video that
Mhm,
works for you, probably will be the fastest way to growth.
mhm,
But it sounds like you and I fall into this category, and I'm sure many listeners do. Many of us have already been established or have been creating content and building our audience for years or even months, right? And if you're in that boat, don't just jump onto reels because for years people have been saying that's the way to go. I find, and as you said too, like I said, my reels are my weakest performing content because I grew so much of my audience, or the biggest foundation of my audience, before reels were ever a thing. I like
Mhm.
carousel posts. I like infographics that are nice and visual, and I'm giving more info in the captions, similar to what you described with photos. I love that, and I've built most of my audience that way. So they're used to seeing that content from me on the feed. They interact with that. When I throw a reel at them sometimes, they're like, I don't even remember who this guy is. Like, some people aren't even used to seeing my face. They're like, he gives us
Like,
infographics.
who's
Like, I don't
that?
remember following this person. So
Yeah.
it doesn't do as well always. So, like, listen to your audience. Know that you have a unique audience and they have content preferences. If they probably followed you or you grew your account without using video, shifting to video might be shocking to them, or it might not really work in tandem with their algorithm habits. Maybe they don't really interact with videos, so Instagram doesn't really show them videos. So it's important to kind of know your audience, know your own unique strategy. That's why I love how you called it, multiple pathways to growth.
Yes, I love that. And even just to add to that is like you won't know any of these things until you guys like till you try. Like you
Yeah.
just have to start and just go because I feel like a lot of us still doesn't even matter how long we've been in business, even revamping our strategy. A lot of us get caught up in our head about like, well, I see this person doing it or like is this the right way? We just overthink things because we want to hit the specific goal so much where I'm almost to the point of like just throw the whole goal away and just actually experiment because even just wanting to touch base too of the there's some features now that like make it easier to experiment. Have you tried those trial reels where like have you tried it? Nah, yes, maybe so. Have you know or do you know anybody that has like seen growth from that?
Yeah. So, and just for anyone listening, so trial reels are very new on Instagram. And what they are basically you can post a reel, and normally it would be shown to your audience or a certain percentage of your audience. Well, if you want, just like it's called a trial, if you don't want your audience to be the first people to see it, you can select trial. It'll be sent out to strangers or people who don't follow you, and Instagram will see how the post does with them before then deciding if it should, push it out further or to your audience. So I love the concept. I think it's like you said, I love experimentation. I think experimenting and not being afraid to just put out some experimental content, I think that's important too, right? We all get locked into this has to perform, this has to perform, this has to do so well. It's okay to try things differently and do experimentation. So I love the idea of trials. I think they're still kind of working out some things. So I haven't really been too happy with the results just yet, but that could also be because, as I've said, my audience doesn't know me for video as much, and I haven't really seen it take off. So I think they're still working out some things behind the scenes. I haven't seen good results with trial reels, but I do like the idea, and I like how Instagram's always mixing new things into the equation.
Yeah, awesome. Well, at least I don't know anybody who's done it. So I love that like you've already shared just even a little bit of insight with
Hmm.
it. I'm finally going to start playing with it next week. So we'll see how it goes. But I like to point of like, okay, they're still working out the kinks.
Yeah.
We're all still figuring it out, clearly. So including Instagram. So
Yeah.
might as well just like give it a shot and just see how it goes. So my question for you is now, can you walk us through, especially this year, of how you would lay out your content strategy? Like really
Mhm.
just give us a breakdown, especially of like defining our goals.
Yeah, I love that. My favorite strategy and breakdown for content that I think is very usable for so many different people, regardless of how much time they have, how many hats they wear, and everything they're trying to juggle and balance, or if this is what they do full time and they have a lot of time to dedicate to content. And it's called the 411 strategy. So, this isn't something I've developed, but I've modified it to content. And basically, with the way the 411 strategy works, if you take 411, 4 plus 1 plus 1, you get 6. So this works for every 6 posts you share on Instagram. Now, there's a lot of freedom within that. 6 posts could be someone's weekly content output. Maybe they are sharing posts almost every day. That is 6 posts a week. Maybe they're more conservative and they're posting around 3 times a week. So those 6 posts will be spread across 2 weeks of content. If you get into some other numbers that aren't multiples of 3 or 6, it gets difficult, but you can work it out. But the 411 strategy is basically for every 6 posts, 4 of those posts are your highest value bringing content. So it's not about selling, it's not about promoting your business. I'll get to that in a second. But 4 out of your every 6 posts are just pure value. Now, value for many people, we automatically think in terms of like education, teaching something, tutorials. That's the way I love to share it. And I find that does help me grow my audience. It gets me a lot of shares. But value can also be entertaining people, right? Making them laugh. A meme post can be value, right? People don't lock yourself into only thinking of value as educational tutorial content. If that's what you like, go for it. It works really well as a content pillar. I personally love it. It's my favorite. But see how you can bring value. Ask people, what was the most, or ask friends, ask family, ask colleagues. What do you look at my feed for 30 minutes? Can you let me know what you think the best post? Don't look at metrics. What was the best post of mine that you got the most out of? Ask them stuff like that and learn. But out of your 6 posts, 4 of them, the first part of the 411, are just bringing value. That's going to help grow your audience. It's going to help give you more reach and might improve your engagement, things like that. Moving on, we have the 1 and the 1. So the other 2 posts. And you're going to mix these in across the 6, ideally. But one of those, the first one, is going to be a hard sell. So that is, you are just straight up promoting your business. Hey, everybody, I have a sale on my art prints this month, right? I'm 25% off my entire print shop. Go ahead, right? That post isn't going to do as well in terms of reach, right? We know that with ad content. It's not going to do as well. That's okay, though. You need to keep your business sustainable, and promoting yourself is so important to that. I have personally, and I've seen other people fall into the growth trap where you just focus on all of your content being value, that first category I shared. And that can be dangerous because you get stuck, you feel good because you're getting follows, you're getting good reach, you're getting shares, and it's awesome, it's great. But you're not promoting your business. You don't have, or maybe you don't have a business, you haven't spent time creating a product or a service or an offer. Because you're not doing that and you're so focused on growth, you'll grow an audience, but that might be all you have. And eventually things change and you might realize, I've been spending hundreds of hours on this and I haven't made a dime, right? So that's where we add in the promotional pillar. So 4 posts of value. The first one, so your 5th post, is a hard sell, just straight, clear, fully transparent about it. I'm promoting my business. Here's how you can work with me. And then the last one, 411, the 6th post. And again, mix them all up. Don't do it in this order. Don't do 4 value, 1 sell. The last one, though, is a soft sell. So a soft sell post is kind of a mix of the two. I might give value in a post. I might say, me on a reel or me in a carousel, here's my monthly content planning process. Here are the steps I follow to plan my content. I go through, I share it, it's given value. And then at the end of the post or at the end of the video, my call to action might be, give this a try. But if you're too lazy to do it, you can also, purchase my done for you content calendar, right? It's a soft sell. I gave value, but I'm also giving a little nudge of how they can buy from me too. You mentioned that tools like ManyChat for Instagram DM automation are super useful for this purpose. I love using it as well. But with this strategy, so 411, every 6 posts, 4 of them just bring straight value. 1 of them is a hard sell. 1 of them is a soft sell. You mix them all up. I find that is really the best approach for doing all things, getting your business and also getting the growth without getting overwhelmed.
That is brilliant. Logging that away because I will be doing I'm going to go back and rearrange everything on I think it's such a great foundation starting point and really just gives business owners the confidence of okay, this is doable for me to where I can show up consistently and also feel confident about selling my services. And I loved how you shared about how many business owners end up in that growth trap where they're so focused on growth that they literally don't realize of how much so that this can really pay your bills and help you grow your business. And so how can business owners, how do we prevent that? 2 questions within that. Number 1, how can we, number 1, create that content where, it's entertaining, but also still moves the needle in our business? And then 2, how do we prevent not getting into that trap of just only growing?
Yeah, and it's so I guess for number 2 first, how to not get in that trap. I'll tackle
Yeah.
that one first, and it just comes down to try, train your audience and show them that you aren't just all free value, and it's going to feel so difficult at first, right? If someone hasn't done this, the first time you promote yourself or promote something, I will mention my business in particular. I do a lot of like influencer work. I do a lot of brand sponsored posts, brand partnerships. So that might take the place of my hard sell or my soft sell, right?
Mhm.
And the first time I started doing brand promotions, I was like, my audience is going to hate this. They're going to call me a sellout, right? All that stuff. Everyone gets worried about that because they've built their audience, growing on free value for the most part. But 9 times out of 10, you will find that your audience is actually excited to support you. If you've built a
Mhm.
community, which social media is all about, as cliche as that is, right? If you've actually shown up and built a community, they'll be excited to support you and they'll be happy to see you doing that. And it might not even mean they are, purchasing from you, but you will
Mhm.
see the support show up, and you got to just try and put it in there. For someone who's just getting started, Instagram, for example, has different formats than just main feed content, right? So in that 411 strategy, as I mentioned, it's good to show up and promote. Those aren't locked into just your main feed content. If you want to do your promo content, your soft sell and your hard sell as Instagram stories, or showing up on a weekly Instagram live and just giving a deeper look into your product or your offer, that's great too. And that might be more comfortable for some people who are afraid to do like a main feed post promoting something. So there are so many different varieties, and Instagram isn't the only platform out there that gives you access to other different avenues and channels to
Mhm.
show up. So find the way that is comfortable for you, but please do try, because I've seen there's always that quote where it's like, if you spend so much time on your, I'm going to butcher it, but if you spend so much time on your social media without making money, then it's not a business, it's an expensive hobby, right? We've heard that before.
Yes.
And you know what, for some people, just creating content is okay to be a hobby. That's all right.
Mhm.
But you have to be real with yourself. If you are, taking time away from your family or your work and things like that to do this hobby, it's important to rein it in and to make sure that you have your priorities and your clear view on what you want it to be.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I can relate to that so much when you said earlier that it's really hard. Like, I used to be that person where I would just give value. Like, I always think of Oprah, like, you get a car,
Yeah.
you get a, that was me. I'm like, you get this, you get that, everybody, which I think is great. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. But eventually I was like, I have like no money.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think that's just so, I'm just really glad that you brought that up and just shared of like, again, just trying. And again, you're training your audience. And I always think too, Mike McCallows, we talked about having a profit first business. He says all the time, like, your audience, your customers want you to be profitable. Like, so there's nothing wrong with selling, because if they're already following you, more than likely they're going to purchase what you have, whatever it is that you have to offer. So I love that. And so I want to talk about the TikTok ban, because I know you brought it up a couple times. I know a lot of us are sweating here, and a lot of business owners have built, honestly, have grown their businesses where it's made a huge impact on the platform. And so, if TikTok should be banned, what are you doing as a business owner? What advice do you have for business owners, especially if that's where they were mainly making their money? And how do they pivot?
Yeah, that's a great question. And again, we'll have to see what does happen. I'm hoping something will change, and it will be, safe. It'll be okay, and it doesn't get banned. But I would be taking the opportunity right now to start growing on other platforms like Instagram. If you are more on the business side of things, LinkedIn is excellent for video, short form video content right now too, right? So
Mhm.
if you're more like thought leadership style content or tutorial content, go over there. YouTube Shorts is still very new. And I expect YouTube Shorts will probably, if TikTok were to be banned in the United States, I could see YouTube Shorts really stepping up to also be up there with Reels and kind
Mhm.
of filling that void, especially for many people who maybe find Instagram difficult to grow on. So start doing that now, because if it does get banned and it's like, you know, Y2K, New Year's 2000, everything's gone, everything's turned off. People who are panicking then, they're going to be with everybody else. But those who prepare beforehand, they'll be ready. So start doing it now. Just start seeing how you can trickle your content from TikTok over to Instagram, over to YouTube Shorts. So you're not waiting till you hear any news that does possibly happen and doing it with everybody else, right? This isn't you want to try to get on the train early instead of when everybody's rushing to it.
Oh my gosh, I love that, and that's such an important thing. And it's not hard to do if you already have a crap ton of content already on TikTok. You can use that as like a low lift,
Hmm.
just to already start collecting that data, just to kind of see what works, what doesn't work, and then you can start creating even new and fresh content to go along with that. And so I feel like there's like different ways that you can absolutely experiment, but I love that and I think it's like again just like business owners really think about what your goals are, what type of content, like you mentioned, like thought leadership, like that's a really great place where you could thrive on LinkedIn. And I did forget that they do have now I don't even know what they're called. They're not reels, are they?
I think there's LinkedIn video, but like,
Oh, okay.
but at least in Canada, like when I go into my LinkedIn app, there is like a vertical video feed. I think they're testing it in Canada right now, but
Yeah.
like I press on it and it literally takes me to like LinkedIn looks like TikTok or Instagram. It's just like a full video feed. I
Yeah.
scroll and you can tell they're trying to get it there. And a big change in the ecosystem, like TikTok being banned, could be what it
Could
takes, right?
exactly like could give that growth to that business owners
Yeah.
have been looking for. So I absolutely love that. And so now another question I want to ask is if you could go back in time and you like say you're restarting your profile like your Instagram again, what is the one thing that you would do differently?
I think I would look at more series content. So when I
Mm.
say series, and especially if I were having to grow now, we spoke earlier about how it's difficult to get people to follow these days, and I think the one thing to my knowledge that is a good way to bypass the anti follow is to lock people into a series. So what that means is there's really no like the good thing is there's no like format of like your series content has to look like this. You get to decide that. It's just hard to put in the work and the experimentation to find that winning ticket. But if you do, it's great and spend time on it. But focus on like part one, part two, part three, part four, part five, right? Try to think of something that you can stretch out and structure endlessly, really, or at least for like 25 episodes. And I think that's what will get people following, and that's what will get people focused on your feed, locked into your content nowadays. Is it's going to get people looped into, oh, I need to see what he's posting or what she's posting, right? Or what they're posting. I need to lock into this account because they did a great series yesterday. I saw part one. I want part two. I want part three. I want part four. And it doesn't matter if that is education, teaching someone something. It doesn't matter if it is just humor and entertainment and little acting skits, but structure your content as a series. And I think that's the most important way right now to be known for something that people want to come back for, which is why people follow or subscribe nowadays.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm so glad you brought that up because on my blog I do storytelling trends every year. And that was
Okay.
one of the things. Because I'm like, if Netflix does this with all of my shows, I want to do it too. And I think that's just so important. And I always think of Risa Tisa on TikTok, who did the Who the F Did I Marry
Oh,
series, where it was like 50 videos and it equated to 8 hours watch time. And people watched it. And it was a series of like see, part one, part two, part three, part four. And everybody stayed from 1 through 50.
yeah,
And I think, again, it's that storytelling piece, right? And I think that's so important where people they want to be hanging on your every word. They want that suspense to figure, even if it's just even educational, whatever. They kind of want to be hanging because they're more likely to come back for the other stuff. And so I think, and I remember too when Reels and TikTok first started out. Well, first TikTok and then Reels. The series used to be there, but not as heavy. But I feel like it's made a comeback now. I don't know, but
definitely.
that's
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's, yeah, like a series was more just like, someone would have like a style of like acting and they might just keep doing that, right? And they were kind of
Mhm,
known for that one thing. But I think we've now expanded into like, yeah, story time series, educational
mhm,
series where it's like a mini
mhm.
course, you show up every single day. Another thing that's great about series is how repeatable it can be. One of my favorite like Instagram accounts, who I believe he's also on TikTok and YouTube Shorts. He is a Pokemon card content creator. It's like Deep Pocket Monster, and he just opens Pokemon packs every day. But he has like a jingle to it. It's like, should I open it or should I
Oh.
keep it sealed? And he gets millions of hits every day because people want to tune in. He opens like vintage old stuff that's very expensive, and because he's
Yeah.
ripping it open. People are like, oh, why would you open that? But he's doing it so we don't have to, which is kind of the
Yeah.
idea of it. And he has like jingles to make it like, it's one of his videos right away. He keeps the format, the framing, like I said, the motto, all of that is so familiar that people are going back and binging all his old content, and they're following or subscribing for all of his future content. He posts every single day at like 11 or at 8:30 p.m. Pacific time. And I see his content and I see he gets more and more likes within seconds of posting every day, because people who are in that audience and enjoy that content want to show up and expect it, like we would like back in the cable days, we would tune in to a TV show every single day to watch it, or every weekly to watch it.
Oh my gosh, I now want to check it out because number one, I don't have anything vintage, but I would just be so interested just to watch and like see everybody's reaction. But I love that though too, because again, like he's trained his audience where like even showing up at the same time, like everybody shows up. Like, and I think that's awesome. And I like how you just talked about the series, like there's story series, there's education series, like you can make it work for you. What is something that you enjoy talking about or doing in your business, and how can you make that into a series? And so I absolutely love that. So how do you keep showing up on social media without the burnout, without, especially when you get frustrated and you're not hitting your numbers? And I think I love to bring this question up all the time because it's going to happen. You're going to see where things are like you're not growing, you're not hitting your goals. How do you navigate that?
Yeah, and I think that is so important, especially as people are maybe looking at this new period in time to get started with some new goal setting. And I will just say, like, don't don't overpromise something. Don't tell yourself you're going to post every single day for 30 days, or even like 60 days or 90 days. Scale it back and just focus on, I'm going to post 3 times a week for 3 months, right?
Mhm.
Give yourself more time, spread it out. I think if we go back to like limiting beliefs where we started, I think it is a very limiting belief that you have to post every day. Like I said, we're looking at quality over quantity. Obviously, if we're talking brands and people who work with teams, you can get into more frequent posting. But I know many of us, myself included, are one or very few people teams, and we have other obligations. So scale it back. It's okay to spend more time on your content if that means less content, and to take breaks, because that's ultimately going to keep you going in the long term. So, kind of full circle to going back to series, something I wanted to mention, don't like promise how long the series will go on for. I
Mm.
see many people will be like, 30 lessons in 30 days, right? And then it's like, well, now like
I
whether
can't
this
hang
takes
on.
off, yeah. And it's like whether this content takes off or not, or you might get sick of it early. You've kind of just told people you're going to do this for 30 days and it's 30 lessons. Like, obviously, yeah, we're all human. You can back out of that and there's no harm done. But mentally that might hurt, right? That might say, like, you might feel like you've not accomplished something or you failed at something. Spread it out. Lean on the more conservative side when it comes to content first. That will allow you to get more mileage for your content. If you have, if you have 21 posts and you're posting daily, you're done in 21 days. If you have 21 posts and you're posting 3 times a week, I'm supposed to be a math teacher, but I feel like I'm gonna ruin my math here. That's 7 weeks of content, right? 7 times 3 is 21. That's
Yeah.
7 weeks of content versus 21 days, so 3 weeks of content, and that is significant. That's going to last you so much longer. And by just posting 3 times per week, you have more time to do other things, right? Work on your products, work on your offer, do work for clients, right? Work on
Mhm.
finding clients in different ways than just content. So I definitely suggest keep a good bit of balance by pulling back from content. We mentioned earlier, don't just focus on the growth game. Yes, it's tempting, right? We all love the endorphin rush of getting followers and all the reach on our posts, but there are so many other baskets to put your eggs in. Don't just focus on the growth. Lean on the conservative side when it comes to posting.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Love that. And I have loved this whole conversation. I feel super excited, really inspired because I'm like, this is, I think, and if you're listening, I think so many of us needed this, right? Like, really, there's hope for us, y'all. And so, every question that we love to end with is, what do you think is the biggest differentiator between the businesses that succeed and the ones that fail?
That is a great question. I will go with consistency, and
Mm,
like I just said, consistency is not to be confused with frequency. Consistency is showing up for a long period of time. It doesn't mean showing up a lot for a long period of time. So
mhm.
do what you can to allow yourself to show up consistently in the long run, and that will win out over the short term sprint that leads to burnout. It will allow you to learn, it will allow you to roll with the punches, and ultimately, for the most part, grow rather than a quick kind of burst or quick experiment. Stay consistent.
Oh, love that. Yeah, this is that's such a good point. And I think a lot of us as business owners, I know for me, I have been trying to, as I figure out my consistency, also be aware of my capacity because a lot of
Mhm.
us will be like, oh yeah, I can do this and lay out the list, and by the time it comes, we can barely roll out of bed. And so, what I
Yeah.
mean? So for me, I have been like, all right, what is my capacity today? Because it's not going to be the same tomorrow. Like, even like if I could do 10% or,
Right.
then 50% the next day. Right. And so I absolutely love that to help really determine what consistency looks like for us in our business. So Lucas, thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been such a fantastic conversation. And for those who want to connect with you, how can they find you?
Yeah, I always say Instagram is my main platform of choice. So it's just at the Lucas O'Keefe over on Instagram, and come say hello over there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Lucas, for joining us and for everybody tuning in. Until next time.